Mr. Costello for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you. Mr. Doherty, what is your title with the DEA?
Deputy Assistant Administrator, Office of Diversion Control Operations.
Amongst your duties is to stem the flow or ensure that the excessive illegal distribution of opiates around this country does not occur. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
If we could refer to the chart, if you could put that chart out. I'm going to reference the bill that passed last year that is the subject of some journalistic inspection right now. Clearly, between 2011 and 2016, prior to this bill being passed, the number of immediate suspension orders has reduced substantially, correct?
Yes.
And an immediate suspension order is an order that, without prior notice, terminates a distributor's ability to distribute controlled substances. It's an extraordinary measure intended to supplement standard agency procedures in cases of imminent danger. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And the legislation sought to define the term imminent danger because there was litigation and concern raised by many patient advocate groups, local pharmacies, et cetera, that standard was unclear. Is that correct?
That is my understanding, sir.
Is it true that since passage of the bill, the number of ISOs has actually increased?
That is not true, sir.
I believe that 8 orders have been issued subsequent to the passage of the bill. Isn't that correct?
I stand corrected, sir. Since passage of the bill, yes, sir.
It has increased. Has the amount of opiates distributed decreased since passage of the bill?
I would have to confer with my diversion staff and get back to you on that.
If I read data points that indicated that the amount of opiates manufactured and distributed in 2017 is less than 2016, would that be accurate?
That would be accurate, sir.
So is it fair to say that since passage of the bill, the number of opiates manufactured and distributed has been less than before it was passed?
Yes, sir, and that would be directly in line with the reduction in the APQ, the aggregate production quota,
Yes.
that DEA oversees.
So if someone says the law has helped fuel the opiate epidemic, would that have any basis in fact, given the fact that the number of ISOs has increased since passage of the bill and the number of opiates manufactured and distributed has decreased since the passage of the bill?
No, sir, I don't believe the data shows that.
So, okay, thank you. DEA and DOJ contributed significantly to the language of the bill that was passed. This has been generally represented by Senator Hatch and Senator Whitehouse, a Republican and a Democrat in the Senate. Do you agree that the DEA and the Department of Justice provided technical assistance to the bill that was ultimately passed and signed into law?
Yes, sir, that is my understanding.
And if DEA had opposed the bill, they would have provided testimony or correspondence or done some level of advocacy with members of Congress. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, I believe there was a technical advisement period, and then ultimately the bill moved forward and was signed into law last April.
And it's fair to say that there were previous iterations of the bill that the DEA took issue with and they did object to it. Is that correct?
That is my understanding, yes, sir.
Is it further true, based upon reports, that the Obama administration actually requested of the DEA whether or not they recommend that the president sign it, and the DEA must have said in some form or fashion, yes, this bill is appropriate to sign. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
Let's talk about this. Do you think that the law should be repealed?
Sir, in terms of the bill that affects, as you say, the ISOs that we use in our administrative toolbox, we also use criminal tools.
Absolutely.
We also use investigative tools.
There's a lot of other things you do,
Right.
and you do it effectively in very many measures, but on this specific bill, which deals with ISOs, do you think it should be repealed, or do you think that it's doing what it was intended to do, which was provide clarity so that you can actually go out and issue ISOs without having to deal with litigation that might actually call into question your enforcement powers in the first instance?
Sir, let me say that the law changed the way that we look at ISOs. It did not stop DEA from doing its job in the diversion space, and we would be happy to work with Congress and DOJ, who is looking at this issue, as I said earlier, currently, to make sure the DEA has all the appropriate and updated tools.
Do you agree that if we did repeal this law and didn't supplement it with something else, then the same vagueness that caused litigation to occur, that raised concerns from a whole host of constituencies, would come to bear once again?
Yes, sir. I believe we do need a mechanism at that level with respect to that tool.
One final question I'm going to try and sneak in. Was there an internal policy change why the DEA so dramatically reduced ISOs between 2011 and 2016?
Not to my knowledge, sir.
Thank you. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back.